Hey guys, Albe here. Today we're gonna review something totally different than what I usually do. This is a 2018 Indian Scout Bobber. So this bike belongs to one of you guys. To be specific, this is Lee's bike. Now, just like all the other famous Lees, Bruce Lee, Brandon Lee, Lee is afflicted by the curse of the dragon, so I cannot show his face on camera, otherwise he'll die. But without further ado, let's see what this bike has. First and foremost, this is the Thunder Black version. Second, being a bobber, this bike is supposed to be simple. And indeed, simple it is. We have a simple cluster over there, you have a nice big engine, and you don't have much of anything else. The engine is a 69 cubic inches or 1133 cc's. The engine develops about 100 horses and 73 foot-pounds of torque, which for a bike like this, it's quite a bit of power. If you associate that power with the fact that the bike, fully fueled, only weighs 550 pounds, which to a sports bike standard, it's a lot, but to a cruiser is not much. And indeed, that's what the bobber is. The bobber is nothing else than the cruiser version of a cafe racer. So you get your cruiser, you pump it up a bit, you start chopping stuff here and there, and you have a bobber. Hence the short fender in the back, the fat tire up front, and the power that comes with it. Faithful to its simplicity, you only have a single disc up front and a single disc in the back. Amazingly enough, the front disc doesn't do much, but the rear brake actually slows the bike down. And as you guys can see, this bike also has this little rack. This is an option that Lee put on the bike, and it looks absolutely fantastic if you ask me. Another thing to note on this bike is this two-color seat that really pops with the dark appearance of the bike itself. The controls are simple, very essential. You only get what you need. As a matter of fact, this bike does not have riding modes. This bike does not have traction control. It does have ABS, but this is a bobber. All those specs and things, this is not what this bike is all about. This bike is about simplicity. This bike is about hopping on, thinking about nothing, and just going on a ride. Just like any other proper American-made cruisers, the bike has a belt drive in the back and dual shock. The shock have a short travel, but amazingly enough, keep most of the bumps on the road at bay. On the other hand, your lower back is going to hurt because of the riding position and the very low seat that the bike has. As much as the rear shock tame the bumps on the road, you're still leaning forward, you still kind of at a U position with your feet far forward, as it should be. The front fork, on the other hand, is a telescopic fork, non-adjustable at all. Rebound, compression, none of that is adjustable, but still does a fair job at maintaining the bike stable enough. Even if the Scout is a V-twin, is actually water-cooled. As a matter of fact, you can see a radiator up front. Now, Indian did a pretty good job at integrating the radiator in there. It's not as visible as you might think, and as a matter of fact, the shroud that encased the radiator is actually part of the chassis itself. This being a bobber, you get a nice fat tire up front, 130, and a nice fat tire in the back, a 150. Now, this bike is gonna stay in my garage for a little bit because I'm gonna help the owner to make this bobber a little bit more bobbery. We're gonna remove this extra long exhaust and put a short one, full exhaust, air filter, and a power commander. We're gonna make this bobber true to his name. We're gonna give it some extra power and we're gonna give him some extra bark. But enough with the boring stuff. Let's take the bobber out for a spin and see how it goes. So, Indian Scout bobber. How does it ride? Well, it feels pretty good. It's very low to the ground. The suspensions are plushier than I thought they would be. I was expecting a harsher ride. There is not as much vibration coming through the handlebar or through the foot peg as I thought there would be. The seat is okay. It's on the hard side. I'm pretty sure on a long ride it'll get sketchy. But you're pretty much leaning forward with your feet ahead of you, which is kind of weird looking at my feet straight ahead of me. All in all, this is a pretty cool bike. It's cool to look at, and it's pretty fun to ride too. The mirrors, when they're tilted up like that, they're pretty good. You can see everything behind you, and they do not vibrate at all. When the mirrors are on the bottom side, they kind of get in the way, especially on tight turns, but and the visibility is not as good, but if you keep them up, they're really good. I feel like I'm holding on up front. It's kind of a weird riding position. You're kind of folded over, but it's not too uncomfortable. I reckon that if the bar were about maybe 6 inches farther back towards me, it would be a more comfortable ride. But I understand that on the same note, the bike would not look as good as it looks with these bars on it. The rear suspensions it's soaking in most of the bumps, but I'm afraid bobber is a young man game, because after a few hours on it, I'm pretty sure my lower back is gonna feel it all. Now, power-wise, oh yeah, it pulls. The bobber, as I said, has about 100 horses, which is more than most Harleys. And at the same time, it's only 550 pounds, which is less than most Harleys. And all the weight is lying pretty low. Therefore, it's a nice, solid ride. Besides, from my point of view right now, this bike looks fantastic. When it comes to braking power, let's test out the braking. As you guys can see, there is my scrambler right there up front. Ready for braking, and brake. Yep. Now that single brake up front with this heavy of a bike does not brake much, but on the other hand, the rear brake is actually functional. So the rear brake actually slows the bikes down, while on most bikes, when you push the rear brake, the bike slows down very, very little. The instrument cluster is very legible. Again, I can see exactly what speed I'm doing, and all the information under in the little LCD display, independently if you have the sun on it or not. You have the RPMs over there. You have a very simple and stylish instrument cluster. You even get a gear indicator. The only thing missing is a fuel level. What you get is a fuel light, so get used to it. And you can switch off different parameters over there, which is not much, but it's always good. Remember, this is a bobber. This is supposed to be a simple bike for a nice, relaxing ride. And as you guys can see, single-handling it on the turns, the bike is doing really, really good. The gearbox shifts pretty good. So far, I haven't caught any false neutral in between gears. And the clutch, even being just a cable, is still not that hard to pull.
It's really good. All the control are within easy reach with your thumbs, and they're the classic control. One thing you get that I noticed is that the turn signal auto cancel themselves after a while. So if you forget your turn signal in, after a while it goes away on its own. Now, how nimble is it? Well, for the size of the bike and for the riding position, it flicks over okay. You cannot compare it with a touring bike or with a naked bike. But if you compare it with most other cruisers, it's not bad at all. I love the way you open up the gas and it goes. Yeah, it goes.
We are back from our ride, and as I suspected, the bobber is a blast to ride, but it is indeed a little tiring on the lower back. Other than that, the power is great. The brake, the front brake, does little to nothing, but on the other hand, the rear brake, maybe because the way the weight is distributed, the rear brake actually is functional. Unlike most bikes where you push the rear brake and the bike just keeps trucking, in this bike the rear brake works better than the front brake, if that's even possible. Other than that, this is a very fun bike to ride, and it does make you feel pretty cool. As always, if you like the video, like. If you love the video, subscribe. If you don't love the video, subscribe anyway and let me know what you don't love so I can fix it. Stay tuned to see what I'm gonna do to this bike next. And thank you very much to Lee for bringing the bike and bringing the parts to make this bobber even more bobber. But till then, ride on, and I'll see you next time.